Okay, good morning. Shall we start the class?
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good
Good
morning.
morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. So, how are things going?
Good morning, sir.
Morning. Can you able to see my PPT which I am sharing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Once again, good morning. This is fourth semester core paper in biomedical engineering. The code is 20BM403, Healthcare Data Analytics. This is a unique subject. Since already I have taken biosensor, all this sensing data that is arriving has to give some based on the data that is being collected, has to give some meaningful information. It may be a diagnostic value or it may be some interpretation value. So that based on those interpretation from the sensed data, we try to create an analysis. That analysis is again a descriptive one in older days, but nowadays we call it as an analytics. The difference between analysis and analytics is ability to predict the future in terms of what is going to come. But rather, when I say analysis with the data, I mean it is with respect to a static value which is happened earlier. So there is a main difference between data analysis and data analytics, which we should be very clear. So backtracking from our subject name, healthcare data analytics is nothing but what based on our healthcare data, what is going to be the future in terms of the diseased condition or the healthy state, which we call it as a state of wellness or well-being as a healthy person. Accordingly, these data we have to do a prediction because as we have a proverb, any disease, if it is predicted earlier, it is equivalent to curing at a much higher frequency. That means once we try to understand diseases at the earliest stage, in case of cancer also, or any chronic diseases, the more will be the effectiveness of the curing out of that data. So ultimately, this data analytics or data science is applicable for many businesses, even IT student, even computer science student, and many people are using it for businesses also, which we call it as a business intelligence, BI as another topic. Say, for example, all this we are going to see in this paper, which is a very interesting and a new course, which will not be available for the students to learn, right? So this is the brief introduction. So once again, I'm repeating, what is healthcare? You can make a note of it. Healthcare. What do you mean by health? Health talks about the state of well-being. In Tamil word, we call it as arogyam. Okay. So any healthy state, it is state of well-being, and in order to make a health-related parameter, it is not only the medical data. What is the difference between health care and medical care? You can make a note of it because most of the students who learn the fundamental, they should understand why we have made a topic like this. Medical data, medical is defined as state of injury or illness and ability to cure it. So you can make underlining of it. What is medical care? Medical or field of medicine talks about art of healing with respect to understanding of the state of illness or injuries. So in our body, what is the illness or injuries? If you try to understand and we make a curing out of it, which is called a state of art of healing. Accordingly, this medical field, or I call it as a medical care, will always be existing. So it is only understanding the state of illness or injuries, and then ability to cure it in terms of medical field, which is there in terms of MBBS field. But what is the slight deviation from medical care to healthcare is medical talks about state of healing or art of curing something after understanding an illness or injuries in a body. Whereas healthcare is not only with respect to a injury or a illness, it is with respect to psychological environmental factor. That is where the medical terminology with a medical field and healthcare field slightly deviates when we are adding a component not only with respect to illness or injuries and trying to heal it or cure it out of a medical field through a procedure and relevant material which we call as a medicine. So we take once we understand the illness or something happening into our body, based on that understanding only, we try to take some tablets or which we call as a medicine. So medical or medicine, these two are called as understanding and curing with respect to a illness that happens in a patient body. So most of the time, this patient once he has an injury or an illness, we call that human body as an injured one, or he needs some medical treatment. Whereas healthcare is not only with respect to the anatomy or physiological changes, which we call as a illness or injuries that happens. It talks about a psychological value. You make a note of it. So health talks about not only the state of the body with respect to a structure and function, it also talks about psychological, what is my mindset, and accordingly, the coordination of body activity will change. And the third one is it also talks about environmental factors. So I have been subjected to some viral infection, or I have been subjected to some bacterial infection. What the bacteria or virus which is surrounding my environment, accordingly, my immunity power will try to fight against that, and accordingly, I maintain a normal healthy state. That is what we call as art of well-being. So it is medical field is just understanding of structural and functional aspect of an illness or injuries and trying to cure it. Apart from that, when you talk about healthcare, from a medical care to healthcare, it talks about psychological factor. That means what is in my mind, what is my mind is thinking, and my brain how it activates my organs. Accordingly, based on psychological factor, it tries to create a change. So that is what we call a state of well-being. The third one is with respect to the environmental factor, how I am being subjected to an atmosphere which has a contaminated value with any pollutant, or it may be a viral or bacterial one. So accordingly, both medical related caring, if it added with psychological value and environmental value, plus some dressing related chances, or I call it as a food habits related, plus some behavioral changes. All those things, if we call it as, then it becomes a state of well-being. That is called as healthcare. So whatever we are talking about in our biomedical field, we always use these two terminologies. One is medical care, which talks about the understanding of anatomy and functional aspect alone, and understanding the functional aspect or the structural aspect, and accordingly we have certain analysis done, right? So that is where you have been studying in single cell system paper or human anatomy related paper or biosensor paper. All talks about ability to collect the data out of the human body, and accordingly we do an analytics is nothing but in future based on the data which we analyzed, which is called as a descriptive way of bringing a data into an information. So basically data, we can write it down, data are the fundamental facts about a physical, chemical or biological process. So this physical data means the environmental, the temperature changes, the humidity changes that happens in terms of health, and in terms of medical data, It may be with respect to an image or an ECG signal, or it may be with respect to a prescription written in a text format, or in a sound format, or in a scanning done through a video format. So all these are data, right? So data is in many formats. And what is data is? Data are the facts about a physical, chemical, or biological process that exist in our. So already I told you, medical care talks about an individual, right? So what is the structure and function with respect to individual's illness, and how we are going to cure it through some medicine, which is called as art of healing, or art of making a careful recovery process out of a abnormal body which is affected by the illness. So this healthcare, along with the data and the analytics, is the ability to tell in future what is going to happen to that person. That is the beauty between an analysis and an analytics, right? So based on that, now you can see after an elaborate expansion of what is healthcare, what is data, and what is analytics. If you combine all these things, we are going to study this fundamental core paper as healthcare data analytics. It is a professional core, and what is needed is some fundamental concept of some computers. We should understand how to bring a data, how to digitize it, then how to transform it, or how to do a extraction out of that data, and then how to tell what is going to be in future. So that is what we call it as the objective of this course is to understand basics of big data platforms. What is big data is the data which we are collecting from our human body, which is nothing but health related parameters. So these parameters are so vast that every cell, as you all know, is associated with respect to a chemical change, a electrical change, a mechanical change, or a biological change as a complex composite structural change. So these changes is not with respect to one category. Say, for example, the sound that is produced due to shoulder movement, the sound that is produced due to angular movement, or again a data, right? Sound is one form of data. Similarly, if I record a heart-related activity, electrical activity of heart, it becomes a electrical data or ionic potential which I am getting. So likewise, if you integrate a sound, a electrical signal, a metabolic related activity in terms of cell-to-cell interactions and cellular related networking, all these things, the data is going to be so vast. So that is why this is called as big data. So what is big data is? Data is in huge volume, or in terms of the speed at which we are collecting, and the parameters like right from electrical activity to chemical activity to biological process that inherently happens at an atomic level or a molecular level, or to a cellular level, to a tissue level. So if you sub dig into many things, data are at various levels, at an atomic level, to a molecular level, to a cellular level, to a tissue level, to an organ level, or a sub-organ level to an organ level, because each organ is having many multiple complexities of epidermal or a dermal or a subcutaneous, as a skin itself as a tissue. So likewise, these data which we are collecting, if it is of huge volume, if it is of very high velocity related, that means the rate at which we are collecting this data, it is going to be because every body which is performing right from 24 hours or in terms of months or years, we have to keep on accumulating all those data. So based on those data only, we can come out with some predictions that is called as an analytics, and accordingly based on these predictions only, we can go for some predictive modeling or some predictive related what going to be happen. Accordingly, a customized personalized medicine can be prescribed for that. So if you look at the analytical level, analytics level, it is earlier was a descriptive level, then we had some interpretive level in terms of reports as the analytical part. Now this interpretation level, we call it as an inferential analytics, right? So descriptive analytics to inferential analytics to predictive analytics. And from predictive analytics, we have what we call it as a prescriptive analytics. Based on what you are going to have in future, you have to prescribe a medicine also in some format, which is to be taken by the patient in order to maintain a healthy environment. So likewise, these contribution towards health analytics in terms of big data, we will be seeing as a few topics. And as you all know, I already told healthcare is related to some psychological, environmental, the way in which my body behaves with some of my friends associated with social media. So as you all, we are now connected through some relationship as a human being. So of course, naturally, we have social media as a relationship between a friends to parents to other relatives. So these are can also be playing a vital role psychologically. So for those analytics, how can we relate it to health factors? Are they call it as the state of well-being? ஆரோக்கியமா இருக்கிறதுக்கு வந்து உடம்பு உடம்பு ரீதியா உள்ள ஒரு பர்டிகுலரை பத்தி மட்டுமே பேசினா அது வந்து மெடிக்கல் கேர். வேறஸ் ஹெல்த் கேர்னு நான் சொல்லியாச்சுன்னா நம்ம உடம்பு உடம்பு சுத்தின இதை அதையும் தாண்டி என்விரான்மெண்டல் என்ன இருக்கிற சுற்றுச்சூழல் பற்றியும் அது ரிலேட்டடா சைக்காலஜிக்கலா நான் என்ன என் மைண்டு திங்க் பண்ணுதோ, கெட்டதை திங்க் பண்ணா கெட்டது தான் என் பாடிக்கு நடக்குங்கிறதோ, நல்லதை திங்க் பண்ணி பாசிட்டிவ் எனர்ஜியா இருந்தா நல்லது நடக்குங்கிறதெல்லாம் வந்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா சைக்காலஜிக்கல் ஃபேக்டர்ஸ்னு பேர். அதே மாதிரி என்விரான்மெண்டல் ஃபேக்டர்ஸ்னு பேர். அதே மாதிரி நான் என்ன ஆரோக்கியமா சாப்பிட்றனோ அந்த சாப்பாட்டை வச்சுமே என்னுடைய பாடியோட ஸ்டேட் ஆஃப் வெல்பீயிங் வந்து இருக்கும். அதுதான் மெடிக்கல் கேர். ஆக்சுவலா ஸ்டேட் ஆஃப் வெல்பீயிங் வந்து எப்படி சொல்றாங்க ஹெல்த் கேருக்கு கொண்டு வராங்கன்னா, இது மட்டும் உடம்பு சார்ந்தது மட்டும் இல்லை, சைக்காலஜிக்கல், என்விரான்மெண்டல், டயட் ரிலேட்டட் and other miscellaneous factors that plays to our human body through some relationships. ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி இருக்கையில நான் இன்னொருத்தவங்களோட ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸோட பேசுறதுனால கூட என்னோட ஹெல்த் ஸ்டேட்டஸ் வந்து டிட்டீரியேட் ஆகிறதோ இல்லை ஆரோக்கியமா இருக்கிறதோ நடக்கலாம். அதுதான் ஆக்சுவலா பாத்தீங்கன்னா இப்ப இருக்கிற யங்கர் ஜெனரேஷன், மோஸ்ட் ஆஃப் த younger generation people always use most of the time in social media like Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp and all in their body because they don't have the sense of having the thirst for water, or they don't have a hungry for taking a food because they keep on looking at the movie emotionally. They prolong their diet related also, which leads to a unhealthy state in their body itself. But if it happens for a prolonged period, like playing games with the mental tensions and all, that further deteriorates in terms of brain damage and some other level of unhealthy status which is happening to this society nowadays due to social media related. So based on those health related survey and patient related outcome, how to do a calculation of this working with health data in terms of warehouses to inform some clinical operation, how to come out with it. So that is going to be the first unit in terms of health analytics. So having seen that, I will quickly come out with unit 2, unit 3, unit 4, unit 5, what we have. After seeing with respect to general big data in terms of healthcare related application, then some patient related outcomes, and then with respect to social media influencing the changes in terms of healthiness. And then we had a prediction with respect to a data warehouse, all those data collected over a period and understanding the behavior, psychological factor, environmental factor. So all those used to be accumulated, and then we'll have to now come out with a clinical operation to treat that particular patient. So that is where we had a complex healthcare system nowadays. And one of our core aim is to develop that healthcare system based on the data. And this approach we call it as a data-driven approach of developing a healthcare system, which may be a health information system, which will give you an information about that health. And this system is integrated for so many people associated with the patient who is supposed to register with an hospital. So every hospital earlier they had a face-to-face consultancy of looking at that patient, and the doctor will always give a consultation, and then that based on that consultation, the a prescription will be provided to the patient, and that patient will now go to a medical shop, and accordingly he will buy his own medicine, and then uh, he, he will be getting rid of that illness, which is called as a medical care. So those aspects, what we have traditionally doing now, this complexity of interpreting or availability of data at a larger scale, we cannot do it for many millions of patients affected by some infectious disease or cancers related. So what they are now making it, how we can now integrate all these data as the component that is got from each modalities of an image based, a sound based, or a temperature based. All those data are nothing but facts about changes that happens in our human body. So based on these facts, now I have to convert it into an information, which is called as an interpretation. Based on that interpretation, now I have to say what is going to be the future. Because today I have a data, I have done an analysis, and based on this analysis, I have to tell in future, tomorrow what is going to happen to this person. It is what is called as a prediction, or we call it as an analytics part of it. So from a description analysis, it will now convert to a predictive analytics. So right, and accordingly, this predictive analytics, then on another stage, we have to have a prescriptive analytics also to give a solution to the patient. So based on all the information which I am repeatedly telling for the past half an hour, the unit 2 talks about bioinformatics data. That means, as you all know, our body is nothing but programmed, which is called as operating system of our human living organism, which is nothing but genome sequences. Those operating systems gives instruction to cellular level, to a molecular level, or to a tissue level and an organ level, and this we call it as a genetically this is happening as a whole genome. So we have to understand the mutations which is happening by analyzing those things, and in future what is going to happen if suppose a DNA with respect to 100 base pairs or 200 base pairs, as we have ATGC related combination, and if we have a one mutation happening, we call it as a single nucleotide polymorphism. How to identify that? And based on that, what is going to be the future in terms of that genetic disorder happening in our. So similarly, if that single nucleotide, there may be some insertion, means extra mutated value, or some maybe deletion that happens to a DNA related, or we call it as a nucleotide sequences. And based on that, every cell has a programmed cell death also. Cell death is nothing but a normal way of happening, apoptosis. So there is now number of copying of those variants. If this copy number variants CNVs, if it is altering, accordingly, if it is missing, the deletion part or increasing part, or we call it as a single nucleotide polymorphism mutated value, accordingly the structural variations going to happen inside our body. So accordingly, there may be a malignancy, or I call it as a benign stages that can be made in terms of what we call it as abnormality or replicated way of malfunctioning. So those are all termed as cancerous cells, and those cancerous are mutated with respect to the changes or structural variation. So all those classification with respect to the genomic data to prediction with the cancer stage and all are the unit 2 which we are going to see. Apart from that, fundamentals of some biomedical text processing and health information retrieval system is also included. As you all know, how to retrieve the annotated value of a sequence, or how to retrieve the health information with respect to one key parameter, and then accordingly how you give a predictive analysis. So that is the ultimate aim of having the second unit. Third unit is purely statistical way, which we called as a descriptive analysis and the statistics. You must have studied in your plus 2 level arithmetic mean, median, mode, measure of some variable, range, standard deviation, variations with respect to variance, which is called as ANOVA, analysis of some variance, some tests related. All this entire third unit, you call it as a statistics. So you must have studied in your +2 level mathematics that all these data can be statistically analyzed and then made a descriptive analysis. That is ultimately talks about the third level, which is called as the first level of data analytics, of understanding statistics. Then the third level is, which we call it as a unit 4, is a predictive analytics. How to apply a probability changes, continuational probability, law of total probability, Bayesian theorem, and predictive analytics and predictive modeling applied to a particular application we will be seeing in fourth unit. And the fifth unit talks about a general artificial intelligence role with respect to the analysis which we have seen already with respect to statistics and predictions. We now move into a particular deriving rules and patterns and opportunity for making a quantified self exploration and its implications with respect to a human conditioning and electronic health record based patient portals. So all this we'll be seeing, and uh, uh, so far any doubt of the outline which we have seen. So what I told is what is data analytics, problems and motivation of for a data analytics. How does a data analytics fit into any business? It is nothing but a e-commerce business of Amazon, Flipkart, or Walmart, which is already doing a customer behavior over online trading. Similarly, we can apply a data analytics to any field. That is what we are going to. I will show some of the examples in the end of this lecture. So what data analytics professionals are and how it is going to be exploring in future as a job opportunity for a biomedical engineering, and some of the examples with respect to data analytics applied to our field, a peek into the understanding level to a descriptive level to a predictive level, which I called as a bayonet level, a peek under the bayonet of what is happening inside as an engine. So data analytics is analysis of a large database to find novel commercial value and exploitable patterns of meaning out of a data. Unless otherwise, we are not able to analyze in a final way or a commercial way or exploitable patterns. This data becomes a dark data. Unless this data is exploded with respect to a meaning or information to a knowledge, from a knowledge to a curing side or predictive state. So based on the knowledge only, we give a prediction about a disease and its remedial measures. So again, I am saying data analytics is analysis of large databases to find novel, means efficient way, right? So novel commercial value, unless otherwise you are not having a extraction based on that analysis, and the commercial value will not be there, and the exploitable patterns if you are not creating based on the changes. It may be a genetic data, or it may be some image data of MRI or CT. Accordingly, we have to exploit it. Unless otherwise, the image, whatever it is there, it is called as an image data with an MRI or a CT scan, which if it is not explored or exploitable, there is no use of that data that is available to a doctor community or to a patient. So based on that exploitable data, what is the aim of our subject is to discover meaningful insights and knowledgeable from the data. That is what you call as an analytics part. So what is that knowledge? Most of the time, these discoveries are as models, and we have a new terminology given to this is data mining. What is mining? As I all know, gold mining is nothing but தங்கச்சுரங்கம் அப்படின்னா என்னன்னா, and to explore each layers of our earth crust, and each earth layers we have to explore. Accordingly, we use different techniques of exploding or drilling into the earth surface, and accordingly reach to a level wherein I can find a gold particle deposited at some forms. So collecting all these iron ores, mineral ores, finally making it as a gold is always what you call as gold mining. Same way here we talk about as a data mining, as each layers in gold mining. தங்கச்சுரங்கம் அப்படின்னு சொல்றோம்ல, தங்கச்சுரங்கத்துல போய் எப்படி ஒரு தங்கத்தை வெட்டி எடுக்கிறதுக்கு பல பரிமாணங்கள்ல பல லேயர்ல இருக்கும். அதே மாதிரி இந்த கான்செப்டுக்கு பேர் வந்து டேட்டா மைனிங். இஸ் நத்திங் பட் a process of building models. It may be a cellular level or an organ level or a whole body level. So accordingly the model becomes a complex, and that exploration or giving a value or a new approach in terms of that analytics will keep changing. That is why this field is so vast that data mining may be a process of building models of a specific cell level or an organ level or a body level or a subsystem level. So a model is nothing but captures the essence of discovered knowledge. So I know that if I talk about an ophthalmology field as a one model, similarly ear as another model, tongue as another model, put together I call it as a 5 senses of modeling the sensory organs of our body. So every modeling captures the essence of discovered knowledge associated with each data. So what is the purpose? It can assist in understanding the inside world that is happening, or the real world which is changes with respect to a data. It may be a simple a numeric data or a text data to a signal data or an image data to a object related changes, 3D object related or 4D with respect to time changes that is happening. So accordingly we have one dimensional, two dimensional, three dimensional, four dimensional data which can be understandable about that world which we are talking about. So where it is applied, data analytics is most of the time earlier it was used for business, like to do e-commerce or online businesses. It was applied to government offices of collecting many services, if tax collections to service collections. Then it was transformed to financial service for a banking sector also. This data analytics is applied. Biology, medicine, everywhere nowadays it is applied, but we are going to see in specific with respect to data analytics for healthcare, right? Or we call it as healthcare data analytics. So all the data that is being collected from a customer, that is nothing but a patient, human resources of those products, manufacturing, supplier, international markets and competitors. So all this data that is collected, why it is collected? To find out some misbehavior. It may be a disease related, or it may be due to some fraudulent behavior that happens in an online trading, or understanding some scientific processes and finding a business opportunity. That is why this field, we call it as an artificial intelligence. How we create that model artificially and how we make a extraction of from a data to an information to a knowledge level. So that is what we call it as a models, right? So understanding knowledge level. So based on this collected information, I just creating another slide which checks about data is nothing but some organized way of collecting it. So we have always collected, checked, and organized the data. So say for example, if a scientist have looked through microscopes and some telescope of a distant object and draw that what they see, because at a microscopic level it is a very closer approach, right? So you view something very close using a microscope, whereas a telescope is nothing but you view something at a far off distance. Based on this data you try to draw and you try to understand a data at various levels, from a interpretation level to a descriptive level to a interpretation level to a understanding level to a knowledgeable level. So those can be used for medical laboratories also have taken dozens of measurements per patient. So every data that is collected needs to be analyzed, since the people have sought ways to use the record information to improve their life, especially financially or healthcare. I'm going to talk about here afterwards, since this is the first introduction class. If you talk about a financial aspect as a mindset or with respect to art of well-being as a state, accordingly people can understand these amounts of data. But nowadays these data are exploding, and it has to create a meaning out of, which is called as an information. And from that information we have to further explore, and we have to come out with a knowledge of that. So those is again we call it as data to a data analytics stage. So this exploration now goes straight to computer without human being, which cannot be imagined, because most of the time earlier, up to this digital revolution started, we have been manually doing based on the report. They person to person they write what is the name of a patient, what is the age, male, sex, what is the history of the disease, and what is the current status in terms of the blood pressure, the heart rate, everything we'll make, which are all every time this is to be done manually, and it has to have a paramedical staff, a doctor, and everything coordinated to come out. It will always take time. It may take a huge 1 or 2 days itself to come out with a solution. So these are not nowadays happening, because whatever data which we have now, it is being treated with directly sending it to a cloud based platform, which is called as a big data platform. Accordingly, each minute data in a multiple perspective or modality is being analyzed, and then these records submitted electronically are now have a market value or a post operating survey data, and go to those warehouses, apply a high throughput technology, simultaneously measure around thousands of genes per patient, and that means each gene related to how many nucleotide changes that is going to happen. So this deluge of data is useless if it is not aided for a treatment purpose. Unless otherwise it is not predicted, or in future what is going to happen. Those data with respect to manual, it is not going to happen. So we call this as a big data. This huge global interest currently was initiated by Tech America Foundation, which is nothing but in 2012, demystifying big data. They found out that most of the American companies, in terms of business or hospitals or general publics, had their data are all linked with respect to social security number or SSN, some passport related number. Then what is the race, what is the behavioral changes, everything they keep track in terms of identifying a culprit related. So Obama, what they thought is, in 2011 announced around $200 million of for big data R&D, to come out with, based on this data, how can we apply it for a administrative purpose of a government, how can we use it for public welfare, how can we use it for healthcare, how can we use it for a normal day-to-day transaction of collecting revenues from the people, and how you execute process for those societal related aspects. So this is what this Tech Foundation released a report describing a transformational power, which we called as a digital transformation power of big data. And they had this huge number of data scientists and analysts urgently needed, and they recruited, and there is a new field, what you called as data sciences developed. That is the reason why we are studying as a fundamental subject for a healthcare field also. So this is all happened in 10 years back, and now we are drowned with more number of data in our medical field itself. So how to explore all those data? It is really an exploration part. You can imagine that in 2011 itself, around 1.8 zettabytes. Terabytes itself is around 10 to the power of 12. Zetta means another 10 to the power of 14 of information created globally. And it is expected that each device, which is, again, I have a mobile phone, I take some pictures, I take some online trading, I go browse something in my browser. All those things are data related to my behavior, all changes day to day, what I am doing. So each data that is being collected, you can see from the second tab point, it is equivalent to around 200 billion 2-hour HD movie that one person could watch for 47 million years throughout. So that much of data is already there in every field, not only with respect to this 1.8 zettabytes of information is with respect to the population of a country, and how globally it is with respect to each year these data are picked up. So from where do you get this data? from a normal biological sensor to satellite related images, social media, mobile communication, email, RFID, and enterprises is hospital related, right? So hospital related application of clinical blood test, CT, MRI, all those things, applications collect many data out of it. So I show the concept of big data platform with 3 examples. So far, any doubt?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. So today's class, I've been talking about big data or data analytics in a vast way. It is applicable for many fields, but we are going to see it for healthcare related application. In future, all the units which we have with respect to healthcare only, we are going to see in Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, Unit 4, and Unit 5. But these slides which I am going to show is just to create an interest in you that how this big data or the data analytics has started in 2011. As I was telling, Barack Obama was trying to give a good governance based on the data that was collected in 2011. So that is where he invested around uh, 200 million dollar for a big data R&D related, and accordingly he used many tech companies which are all called as Silicon Valley companies, and we have many data science, artificial intelligence, business intelligence based companies which explores this in terms of creating an information to a knowledge to a prescription stage of transforming the data into a convertible useful forms. Unless otherwise we are not able to convert, there is no use of measuring anything, right? So I measure something, say for example, I measure using a thermometer my body temperature and it says 27, and tomorrow it says 29 degree centigrade, or day after tomorrow it's there is no correlation between the day 1 to day 3, right? So these changes we cannot keep repeatedly recording, and manually our human being cannot interpret the data. So naturally, why this big data concept or big data based platform was starting is basically to transform to a machine based changes, which very oftenly does at a very high speed with huge volume, and accordingly we have huge variety of data that is being collected from various angles, and all those things are there. I have my own interest, so you can see helping to catch a culprit who has in Australia in 1990s there was a culprit who is a most notorious serial murder case. He earlier used 7 young backpackers murdered from 1990 to around 10 years. He was repeatedly doing all the murders, and the people in Australia were not able to find out. So police had developed many evidences of these malfunctions, or I call it as notorious events that happened due to these persons or the gang, that was developed as a profile by the police. Then huge data set generated of vehicle which he was using, where the gym he was using, what is the gun licensing, and the police record. So this itself says that the vehicle, gym related membership, gun license, and police record as the 4 important factor about a citizen who is normal or who is abnormal in terms of creating crimes. So based on this data, they linked all the analysis software from Sydney company called NetMap Analytics, and the narrowed list of suspects of that area, because this notorious crimes which happens over a particular group of persons or the gang that is using. So from a list of suspects of around 18 million gangs, which is linked to just a number vehicle related they are using, and the gym gun license, and the previous criminal records in a police station. So from 18 million, it was narrowed down to just 32 numbers based on the data analytics. It was able to create a network or analysis out of which included the murder. And finally, from that 32, they physically verified and then came out with the culprit called Ivan Millant, and they sentenced him some crime aspects, the offenses they have paid. So this is one example from 18 million records without any evidences based on machine's intelligence or the data collected. They have narrowed down to around 32 real pictures of the culprits, and then out of that 32 you can now call all of them, then make a physical inquiry, and accordingly we can now narrow down who is the culprit. So this is one way of coming out with a solution of relating many data and then coming out with a analysis out of a serial murder or a crime that happened in any region. So this is again an application used for crime detection. Similarly, I now showing you is the what is this Amazon related purchases. Say for example, whenever you go log in to your user account of any of the e-commerce site like Amazon, Flipkart, everywhere you purchase daily with respect to that same login ID and the password. Say for example, if I search for some of the books with respect to the new releases or the machine learning books or art of some R programming. Likewise, it will show you the priority of what you have searched earlier, around 25 numbers, and page by page, it will show around 4 books in one page. That means 25 into each search related screenshot will give you around 4. And accordingly, 25 means it will give around 100 books that you always browse it. So based on that, it gives you a recommendation and how to improve your recommendation, the rate you like is recommended for you, what is your offer for the Amazon related, and all this you can see. Amazon gives you a browsing history, it is gives you a recommendation for you, it rates you what you like, and accordingly it improves your recommendation. Your profile will be learned by the machine itself, and it will give you many offer very customizedly, and you keep attracted to what they are doing in terms of the e-commerce business. Unless otherwise that is not there, I don't have the time to search every time, right? So unless I know that I have to purchase a book and I know that I have to purchase a phone, so every purchase which I make, a phone, a book, or some cosmetics item or anything, all these things will be there in the browsing history. So that is why it is becomes a big data. It keeps accumulating all the behavior with respect to all the items. If say, for example, book alone, if there is around 10,000 books, it will again cut short into a scientific books in terms of or a crime book or a novel book or a comedy book. Everything it will show you page by page, and all see all the recommendation or featured recommendation. Everything it will be displaying, and accordingly you have your work easy. So we have the third important revolution in terms of big data platform or data analytics is the Walmart. Walmart is nothing but a supply chain company which did a retail business of A to Z. Anything you go, you can get it from that shopping center, which is a very big, huge warehouse related and shopping mall which they maintained. And they had a tremendous revolution. As you all know, once a shopping mall is being invented, how to move it, each and every product from A to Z. They have to bring it from the warehouse, show it as a display, and the customer who comes has to pick that product, bill it, and then they give a business to that Walmart as a supply chain management. So this supply chain or e-commerce was traditionally happening 20 years back. A probable story about Walmart is what they created a change in terms of their business model is they combine the data from their loyalty card program with point of sale data. That means every person whoever approaches from each point, from a grocery item or from a cosmetic item or from a toy item where the sale has happened, they issue their card itself for every program. The first, they had that demographic data about the customer. The second, what they bought and when they bought, everything they had it. They accumulated all the data over years. Some finding obviously, people who buy some item also like to buy lemon also. So every time this combination was okay to explore, but one finding was very unexpected. On Friday afternoons, young males who buy napkins also had to buy some of the drinks items. So no one would have thought to query about this data related to exploration and increasing the business. So what is the investigation is nothing but young men go to drinking with their mates on Friday nights. That usually involves coke. So young men only buy napkins after they have children. Having children kills. All these are systematically explored information out of the data just which is being done at a point of sale. So they could increase their business just for one type of selling napkin to selling the coke along with that in terms of their behavior was found. The fourth example is predicting the US election market. Many analytics and statistics to correctly predict outcome of, as you all know, United States of America is about 50 states. Out of 50 states, from each polling and related data which happened, and the one-to-one campaigning which the dealers did, based on that, each person's behavior of choosing their leader or attending that program of campaignment in the by a Congress government or a Republic government. Accordingly, Republican party were confident in their landslide win prediction, though Democratic predictor raise a thin victory. So based on this Republican or Democratic findings, that this shows that data-centric approach of getting feeling of predicting an election result itself. Say for example, our country has around 32 states and it has a population of around 1.2 billion, or I call it as 120 crore to 130 crores of people, with so many states and so many people voting for the democratic value of electing a central government. Likewise, for Tamil Nadu, 8 crore people are there. 8 கோடி மக்கள் இருக்காங்கன்னா 8 கோடி மக்கள்ல ஒரு 234 எம்எல்ஏ தேர்ந்தெடுக்கிறது பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ரைட் ஃப்ரம் சென்னை டு கன்னியாகுமரி, யூ ஹாவ் மெனி டிஸ்ட்ரிக்ட்ஸ். So what is the behavior of this the election campaign? What is their response? Because it all starts for 30 days, right? So sometimes a candidate registers for the nominates through election commission, and then he does a campaigning, and based on that campaigning, they have a poll predictions. Once the election day has been announced, on that day they go for voting. Based on the voting, before the election result is declared, most of the prediction or data-centric approach gives you who could be the winner. So again, earlier it was done through some surveys, human samples of around meeting around 5,000 people and then collecting data. Based on that, they do a prediction. But nowadays it is not happening because due to the availability of big data and their browsing history, every artificial intelligence-based software also predicts in terms of what is going to be the future in terms of a Tamil Nadu Assembly election, 2025 or 2024. So what is finally we are going to conclude is, sorry, I have run out of time, I think. So we'll see the rest of the time in terms of putting it in the relevant topic next time, right? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
நான் வேற கூடவே ஒரு 15 நிமிஷம் எடுத்துச்சுன்னு நினைக்கிறேன். ஓகே, ஏதா புரிஞ்சுதா? இது கொஞ்சம் அட்வான்ஸ்டு டாபிக். புக்கு எல்லாமே நான் வச்சிருக்கிறேன், இ புக் எல்லாம். இன்னைக்கு பார்த்தது ஜென்ரலு. நெக்ஸ்ட் கிளாஸ்ல இருந்து ஒரு எக்ஸாம்பிளோட பார்த்துட்டே போகலாம். இது தியரி பேப்பர் தான், ஒன்றும் கவலைப்படாது. ஏதாவது கேள்விப்பட்டிருக்கீங்களா இதோட டாபிக் டைட்டிலை பத்தி?
No, sir.
கேள்விப்பட்டது இல்லையா? சரி, இனிமே இதுதான் ட்ரெண்ட் ஞாபகம் வச்சுங்க. டிஜிட்டல் ரெவல்யூஷன் பத்தி, டிஜிட்டல் இந்தியா, ஆன்லைன் ட்ரேடிங், மொபைல் பேங்கிங்லாம் என்னைக்கு பேச ஆரம்பிச்சாங்களோ, இனி வரும் காலத்திலையும் நம்மளுடைய இந்த மொபைல் கம்ப்யூட்டிங் எப்படி வந்து மொபைல் பேங்கிங் டிரான்சாக்ஷன் ரிலேட்டட்ல ஆன்லைன்லேயே பேமெண்ட் பண்ணுறீங்களோ, ஜிபே, ஃபோன்பேன்னு பண்ணுறோமோ, இனி வருங்காலத்தில் நம்ம எல்லாருக்குமே வந்து ஒரு ஹெல்த் கேர் ரிலேட்டடுக்கும் வந்து ஏதோ ஒரு ஹாஸ்பிட்டலோட டைப் ஆகி ஒரு கார்டு கொடுத்துருவாங்க. அது ரிலேட்டடாக நம்ம வந்து பண பரிவர்த்தனையோ இல்லை மெடிக்கல் கேர் ரிலேட்டடாக இல்லை உடல்நல குறைவு இல்லாத போது சைக்காலஜிக்கலோ இல்லை டயட்டீஷியனோ ஒரு நியூராலஜிஸ்டோ ஒரு டெர்மாட்டாலஜிஸ்டோ அவங்களே பிக்சரில் வந்துடுவாங்க. நம்ம டேட்டா அவங்கள்ட்டே வந்துடும். ஸோ நீங்கள் ஆஸ்பத்திரி போய் தேட வேண்டாம், அவங்களே உங்களை தேடி வந்துடுவாங்க. இப்படிதான் இருக்கும் ட்ரெண்டு. ஸோ அதனால தான் இந்த பேப்பரை எனக்கு ரொம்ப பிடிச்ச பேப்பர் இது, அதனால தான் வச்சிருக்கு. இது இந்த ஏரியாலே ஹெல்த் கேர் டேட்டா அனலிட்டிக்ஸ்னு யாரும் பேப்பர் வச்சிருக்க மாட்டாங்க பயோமெடிக்கலில். இது கொஞ்சம் இன்ட்ரெஸ்டாக படிங்க, நீங்களும் அப்பப்போ ப்ரௌஸ் பண்ணுங்க. இது ரிலேட்டடாக நிறைய தேடல் இருந்துச்சுன்னா நீங்கள் இப்போ என்னெல்லாம் டேட்டாவை பற்றி சென்சாரில் படிச்சீங்களோ அந்த டேட்டாவை ஒரு கருவியிலிருந்து வாங்கி ஒரு இன்ஸ்ட்ருமெண்ட்ல இருந்து வாங்கி அதை எப்படி எக்ஸ்ப்ளோர் பண்றதுங்க. வந்து கலெக்ட் பண்றதுனால ஒரு பிரயோஜனம் இல்லை. இப்போ நீங்க எல்லாம் வந்து டேட்டானா என்னன்னா, நாமக்கல்ல இத்தனை பேர் இருக்காங்க அப்படின்றது ஒரு டேட்டா, அதுல எத்தனை பெண் வாக்காளர் எத்தனை ஆண் வாக்காளர் இருக்காங்கிறது ஒரு டேட்டா, அவங்க யாருக்கு ஓட்டு போடுவாங்கங்கிறதெல்லாம் வந்து இன்னைக்கு இருக்கிற ட்ரெண்டுக்கு தகுந்தாப்புல அதை வந்து ப்ரெடிக்ட் பண்ணி அவங்கள எப்படி அட்ரஸ் பண்றோமோங்கிறதுல தான் சக்சஸ் ரேட்டே இருக்கு, அங்கதான் பிசினஸே இருக்கும். அதே மாதிரிதான் இப்ப இந்த ஹெல்த் கேர்ல நம்ம வந்து நோயை எப்படி மீண்டு வந்ததோடு இல்லாம எப்படி நோய்க்கு வர்றதுக்கு முன்னாடியே வந்து எதிர்ப்பு சக்தி எல்லாம் கூட்டுறது எல்லாமே வந்து அதோட பேர் வந்து பர்சனலைஸ் மெடிசன். பேஷண்ட் கேரே வந்து அடுத்த டிஜிட்டல் வேர்ல்டில் எப்படி டிரான்ஸ்ஃபார்ம் ஆக போகுதுங்கிறதெல்லாம் வந்து இந்த மாற்றம் வந்து இந்த மொபைல் டிவைசஸாலே வந்துடும். ஓகேயா? இப்போ நீங்கள் எல்லாருமே பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஹெல்த் வேலட்னு ஒன்று வந்துடும் ஃபோன்லேயே. வந்து நீங்கள் இப்போ எப்படி கேமுல வந்து ஆன்லைன் பண்ணி ஆன்லைன் கிளாஸ் எடுக்கிறீங்களோ, நாளைக்கு கன்சல்டேஷனும் டாக்டர் ரிலேட்டடு மெஷர்மெண்ட் எதுவும் அவங்களே உங்களுக்கு வந்து ஃபோனுக்கே அனுப்பி வைக்கிறதும் இந்த மாதிரி இதெல்லாம் வந்து இன் ஃபியூச்சர், இன்னைக்கு 2021 22ல நடக்குதான்னு தெரியாது. மேபி இன் அனதர் 5 years all the things in terms of healthcare will be transformed into a mobile device or digital laptop based or phantom based. எதுவாக இருந்தாலும் அந்த பரிமாணத்துக்கு தான் மாறப்போகுது. இப்போ இறுதி இந்த டிரான்ஸ்ஃபார்மேஷனுக்கு நீங்கள் தயாராகணுங்கிறதுக்காண்டி தான் இந்த சப்ஜெக்டே வச்சிருக்கு. unless otherwise you learn this subject, you will not be transforming your idea from a data to a digital world of exploration. So that is what I'll talk about data analytics for a healthcare field. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, ma. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, pa.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, pa.